Rebirth+End of World+Infrastructure+Sweet Pet+Survival+Monster Girl. After 10 years of experience in the apocalypse, Miaomiao finally received a boxed lunch. But before she could come and be happy, she was forcibly resurrected and restarted, and bound to an infrastructure system. Do you need her to find the post-apocalyptic Rong? That night, a base emerged from the underground of Blue Star, allowing her to transform and transform. Does she need to stockpile a large amount of supplies in the short term? So, a high-ranking official from Blue Star spent the night searching for the thief who stole goods from his warehouse, and even issued a high reward. But before the thief could be caught here, the zombie virus broke out over there. Ice-cold period, heatwave period, thick haze period, corpse storm period. Miaomiao led everyone through one by one. The base grew bigger, schools were built, medical stations were opened, and the enemy became stronger. But if she were in this critical period, it wouldn't be a big deal to have a sweet love story, would it? P.S. Strong female and weak male, female lead attacks, male lead assists. Keywords of the novel. The newly appointed base commander is both beautiful and confident, with no pop-ups. The newly appointed base commander is both beautiful and confident. Download the complete text. The newly appointed base commander is both beautiful and confident. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Rebirth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Rebirth. The strong wind shook the trees fiercely, and the thunderous sound in my ears was continuous. A torrential rain poured down from the sky, pouring down on the scattered body of Miaomiao, whose limbs had been bombed. Even heavy rain cannot conceal the intense battle situation not long ago, unable to suppress the strong smell of gunpowder, and unable to dispel the pungent smell of blood. But strangely, leaning against numerous corpses, Miaomiao's limbs began to grow slowly, but at this moment, her face was as dead as ashes, her eyes were empty, and she was holding a compression bomb in her mouth. Her already beautiful little face had a few ferocious scars, mixed with crumbs of dirt, which made her look particularly disheveled. Her eyes were moist, unable to tell if it was blood or tears. Her gaze was not focused, just aimlessly scanning around, and the pain associated with her regenerative ability only made her facial features twitch slightly. And those so-called teammates in the distance were already beaten and only focused on running away. But even she could only smile helplessly. I don't know why, but I always feel a surge of heartache surging in my heart. She knew that if the mission failed, she would be abandoned. Still participate in the mission without hesitation. Clearly, she has no meaning or reason to persist. My family passed away a few years ago, leaving her alone to survive in this apocalypse. She should have died a long time ago, but because of this unique ability, she wouldn't be infected even if she was caught by zombies. Later, she was poached by a special ability group and has been working hard for the top management of Blue Star. At best, she is running around to protect the remaining residents of Blue Star, but at worst, she is the running dog of the top management. They issue orders to guide them wherever they need to go. Once the mission fails, she will be abandoned by the top management. Countless bloody cases have occurred before her. Why not escape? The person who escaped last time was already caught and sliced into specimens. Even though his ability level is among the best in the base, in the eyes of the higher-ups, regardless of his abilities, he cannot tolerate disloyal dogs. But she still hates it so much. Hate oneself for being powerless, because one's ability is not the most outstanding, and one cannot escape the clutches of the higher-ups, and can only let him command. Hate oneself for not knowing people clearly, at first thinking that I had a stable job like before the end of the world, with a stable salary and easy iron rice bowl job. But it's about to end, isn't it? She glanced at the jade gourd necklace hanging around her neck. That numb expression was mixed with a hint of warmth. Bang! The absurd end of the decade has finally come to an end. Asterisk. As the shock wave of the explosion dissipated, Miaomiao slowly opened his eyes, either looking or knowing, and was startled at first glance. At this moment, she was suspended in mid-air, completely immersed in a closed yellow-green container. However, she quickly ruled out her own speculation in the laboratory that it was very empty and had nothing, and the two round designs were like a gourd. Even if the technology of the apocalypse is advanced, it is not possible to develop any black science skills that make people semi-suspended in the air. Moreover, she was self-destructing, and she had only just experienced the pain brought by the explosion in a second. Even if she was in a strong position, it was impossible for her to complete the restructuring without pain in a short period of time. And the color scheme of this gourd is too familiar, just like the gourd necklace she has been wearing all along. Looking at her delicate palms, she couldn't help but have a bold guess. She carefully rotated her body and jumped to the ground with the force suspended in the air. To verify her conjecture, she ran to the boundary and covered the yellow-green wall with her palm. Warm and smooth. That should be the jade gourd given by her grandfather. I don't know why she appeared inside the jade gourd after the explosion, but it should be like those novels, she was reborn. Miaomiao has a good grandfather. But this old man is usually stubborn and unreliable in handling things, but he is particularly precious to his granddaughter, relying on her for everything. Unfortunately, the old man left when she was in high school, leaving only a necklace with a jade gourd hanging on it for Miaomiao. After the apocalypse, her parents and younger brother were infected with the zombie virus and unfortunately passed away. This jade gourd became her only thought. Wherever she is, she wears it. And after countless hardships, all the equipment on her body fell off, leaving only this necklace hanging around her neck intact and undamaged. Miaomiao. An old voice came from behind Miaomiao, and the familiar sound made her tremble. She slowly turned around and looked at her thin and tough grandfather in front of her. For some reason, tears welled up in my eyes. Seeing his figure, she couldn't help but rush towards him, but before she could bump into his embrace, she passed through his body and fell to the ground fiercely. She was a bit surprised, but soon regained consciousness and looked up at the semi-transparent person. Yes, Grandpa is long gone. It's fortunate to be able to see it, how could it be encountered? Miaomiao, Grandpa is about to leave, but he won't take you with him this time. The semi-transparent person crouched in front of her, just like when she was a child, touching her head with his hand. Grandpa reversed time and resurrected you with this precious gourd, but Grandpa has 3 important tasks to assign to you. Does Miaomiao agree? As long as it's what Grandpa says, Miaomiao will do her best. Okay, it's truly my Miaomiao. The first task next is for you to collect a large amount of supplies in 31 days and live a good life with your father and them in this apocalypse. The second task is to bind this jade gourd. You can place it underground and it will become your home in the end world. The third task is to bind this jade ball, he said, adding a yellow-green ball to his hand. That jade ball has 2 slightly clever big eyes and a mouth that looks like a thread. Do I need to pay a price for Grandpa's resurrection? Silly child, I'm just a precious granddaughter like you. As long as you can live well, I'm satisfied, he said, his breath weakened a bit. Miaomiao, I know you have endured a lot in the last 10 years of the world. So my grandfather specially prepared some small gifts for you to bind to this space, and you can see it. Of course, you can also not accept this task. His voice was very light, and the action of patting Miaomiao's shoulder was even lighter. Looking at the almost transparent person, she held her grandfather's hand and nodded in tears. I promised my grandfather that he would come to my dreams to see me often and ask me if I was doing well in the future. I also promised Miaomiao. Watching the figure gradually fade away until it disappeared, the jade ball finally jumped into Miaomiao's arms, looked up and opened her big mouth, followed by Miaomiao's tears. Hulu space binding successful. Infrastructure system binding, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. 2. Starting with a province. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Starting with a province. Infrastructure system successfully bound, reward Grandpa card big gift package X1. Suddenly, the jade ball in her arms flew up to her face and said coldly, "Do you want to open it?" "Open." She slapped the jade ball away, not sure if her strength was too strong, and the jade ball hit the ground heavily. She rubbed her hand, not to mention, it felt really good. "I saw it humanely need the beaten area," and Wei Chu Baba spoke up, "Congratulations to the host, you have obtained incredibly sturdy assembled armor X1, red samurai sword X2, gourd carrying space X1, regeneration skill X1. As she spoke, 4 large transparent cards appeared in front of her, each with a gaze and annotation. For example, this armor, just in the picture, carries a hint of ferocity. The silver armor is constantly rotating, with smooth lines that sparkle in the light. When not in use, it is a small scale. When in use, the scale adheres to a person's clothing or body, immediately becoming larger and assembled into armor to protect them from any harm. The note on the red samurai sword is very concise. Dispelling iron like mud, summoning at will. She didn't even want to read the introduction of her personal space because she was in this so-called gourd space. As for regeneration, the skill that made her love and hate was destined to prevent her from contracting the zombie virus while also enduring the pain of limb recombination. To describe her in 7 words, she is a zombie virus insulator. Please select the initial location of the base. A line of white words flashed by, and a map was displayed in front of her. This system even thoughtfully gave her a pen to circle and draw on the map, and then make choices after filtering. If we choose based on the construction sites of several large bases in our past lives, she thinks the one with the highest safety factor is still her old employer. Compared to some bases, they may choose to build in forests and large lakes for convenient resource collection. However, the damage and infectivity of mutated beasts inside are not inferior to those of zombies. Moreover, in the early stages of base development, a significant reduction in personnel and casualties is not conducive to the construction of the base. In the later stage, don't expect some technical personnel from other bases to switch jobs. The distance between the 2 bases is at least half a day's journey, which is just a straight line distance. If something happens on the way, you may not have arrived at the new base yet, and your life will be lost halfway. No one dares to easily say that this road is 100% safe. Check the box to choose whether to generate the address under the old owner's name. Firstly, her home is here, and secondly, it is convenient for her to commit the crime. Next, please select the base style for the host. This time, the system didn't give her any pictures, only gave her 5 pure text cards. Don't look, don't know, I'm scared at first glance. Hey guy, let's play the cultivation game here. Art pastoral style. This building has a strong forest atmosphere, with a focus on white and beige. Cyberpunk style. This building has a strong futuristic technology style, full of light sense, simple structure, cleanliness, and less human touch. Steampunk wind, adapted version. The old-fashioned steampunk wind architecture is densely packed, making people feel suffocated. Composed with mechanical elements, the entire city looks like a giant machine. However, after the adaptation, because it only has 2 floors, the overall appearance will be more concise. Moreover, underground, we only look inside, which will match the warmth and human touch of the punk wind. It integrates modern technology, some light sense, but not much. European-style castle style. The architecture focuses on a magnificent style, which is easy to understand. However, I will introduce it more. Jiangnan smoke and rain wind. With the unique black, white, and gray characteristics of Jiangnan in Z country, it appears more desolate. I have already made a choice for this, so let's take the steampunk style with the most characters. The style has been selected. Next, the host will be given the identity of the creator and can be modified. The initial base area is determined by the host. Area 105500 square kilometers. Starting with AZ province. Miaomiao scratched the back of his head and said, I have no concept of area. I used to have the worst geography. Otherwise, it would be 9.6 million square kilometers. You're not the worst in geography, you're the worst in mathematics, right? 9.6 million square kilometers, it's a national university. I am an infrastructure system, not a founding system, nor a divine creation system. If you start with a province, develop with a country, and in the end, the entire blue star must be under your control. I'm really not joking. Let's set the single dot layer area for my previous high school, which is the largest. It's quite large, with a total area of 100,000 square meters. However, for a large base, it's still small. I'll consider expanding it for you when the time comes. The golden light appeared, and Miaomiao watched as two large three-dimensional templates floated in the air, as if waiting for her to operate. With this in mind, she placed a pillar of light in the middle of the first base, enclosing a circular front desk area, and only divided some large and small areas for construction after the apocalypse. Then multiple toilets and elevators were set up in some places, and the claws were extended towards the second template. On this second floor, she mainly focuses on dormitories, but she hasn't figured out everything else. But the most important thing is to build a decent home for oneself in the apocalypse. Although there was only one floor of operating space, she allocated herself 300 square meters, including 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1 living room, and 1 kitchen, as well as 2 guest rooms and a conference room. Then, I simply set the standard configuration for the second floor housing and pressed the OK button. Anyway, it can be modified at any time. The initialization of the base has been successful, and the transmission entrance is located in the living room of the Yu family. Next, unlock the first task, Grandpa's concern. Please collect a large amount of supplies within 31 days before the end of the world. If you can collect 10,000 items on the first day, reward half a random vehicle, 20,000 items, reward 1 random vehicle, and so on. As the system spoke, a countdown of 24 hours of increased ability appeared on her wrist. Boy, this system forces her to rob, right? There are thousands of items in a day, and how could so many items come out? Unless it's a large warehouse, or someone has started collecting materials in advance, and she happens to know the storage location. Old master, you exploited me in the previous life, and I mocked you in this life. This is really a good cycle of heaven. She followed the system's words and pulled out a samurai sword. The blade looked ordinary, with a long red bar flashing on the surface, which couldn't be seen if you looked closely, but its blade was very sharp. She tried waving it a few times, and the weight of the sword was decent, but it would flash red when waving. With her heart following her thoughts, she returned empty-handed to her bedroom. The warehouse of her former employer is a bit off-center and far from her current location. However, as a loyal former lackey, she has visited this place too many times. Even if she walks upside down with her eyes closed, she can still walk there. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 3. Huang K. After. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Huang K. After. In the dimly lit warehouse, on a dense container, a girl wearing a duckbill cap, long braids, and pink sportswear was squatting. When it comes to her height from the ground at this moment, which is as high as 5 floors, even if she accidentally falls from above and hits the ground, she will shatter and break bones. However, she can easily jump on 2 containers that are 3 meters apart, which is simply a human miracle. Of course, the premise of this miracle is placed before the end of the world. If it is placed for a period of time after the end of the world, human abilities and physical fitness undergo significant and phased improvements, and this situation naturally becomes common. She cut through the container with a knife, inserted her index finger, and easily transferred the goods inside into the space. Looking at the 1,000/10,000 in front of her, she reached out her claws to the next container, remembering that the old owner only prepared food and clothing in this large warehouse, and things like firearms were stored hidden in air raid shelters. A month's time greatly limits the amount and variety of things she can collect, and many energy sources are non-renewable at once. If she wants to solve these problems, she needs to collect as much energy as possible that can be reused. She didn't leave until she checked the surroundings and confirmed that the warehouse had been emptied by her. On the way, it started pouring rain in the sky, and there were less than 8 hours left until the increase in ability was eliminated. Although she had collected an astonishing 50,000 items, for her, these were still far from enough. Before the end of the world, she would not steal someone else's warehouse at will. Because her old boss had more than one warehouse, she thought he wouldn't be able to find it here in the short term. Even if he did, it would be almost the end of the world. And those surveillance cameras were all wrapped in black cloth by her, which is completely unfounded. After the end of the world, these warehouses are all ownerless items that she can freely search for. June 7th. After June 7th, she will start to plunder extensively without leaving any room for maneuver. As she stepped into the forest closest to the warehouse, the unpleasant smell of blood slowly drifted into her nose. I thought it was a scene where the forest transformed into a living person and saved Mr. Ba from reaching the pinnacle of his life. Dong! As a result, 2 o'clock diagonally ahead of her, there was a golden brain axe fighting against a black wolf. The tiger was significantly larger in size than the black wolf, and the black wolf was clearly in a disadvantageous position, with several ferocious wounds torn from its body by the brain axe. At this moment it was hit by the brain axe on the tree, and its body fell heavily. The smell of blood should have come from it. But aren't wolves social animals? She still secretly followed the idea that it was foolish not to pick up cheap things. When encountering such a scene, let's not panic or rush to take photos and post on social media. We must waiting for both beasts to lose and knock them unconscious before pulling them into the space. Cultivate well before the end of the world. After the end of the world, if this brain axe and the big black wolf are not infected by zombies, after a period of time, they will transform and evolve, becoming a great help to her. The black wolf tried to stand up, but its trembling body couldn't conceal the truth that it couldn't hold on for long. The golden gradient layer was swirling back and forth around it, as if searching for a chance to kill with one blow. Roar! Tiger Sun let out a low growl, bent down, and lifted his foot, but in a moment he fell heavily in front of the black wolf. The wet black soil splashed on the tiger's face, looking very disheveled. The black wolf, upon seeing this, eventually lay on the ground panting and looked up with a hint of doubt. One person, one wolf, with 4 eyes facing each other. Silence is better than sound at this moment. It turned its head to a place and whimpered a few times, as if trying to tell Miaomiao that there was something there. Upon seeing this, Miaomiao put away his knife and slowly walked forward according to its instructions. I don't know if it's because of the rain that has stirred up the moisture in the field. The mud is a bit soft and not easy to walk on, one deep and one shallow, like stepping on cotton, and it is much sticky than cotton. After walking for a while, she pushed aside the bushes and saw several banana leaves spread on the ground in front of her. As she lifted it, she saw a wolf cub with only 5 hairs not growing, huddled in a pit and trembling. At this moment, the rain had already poured in. If she were to wait any longer and let the rain swallow up this small pit, then 6 wolves might die today. Sister, at first I heard you say that the end of the world will come in a month. I thought you were foolish enough to study and not want to take the college entrance exam. A short boy with a shaved head was groping around. After all, you still have 1 month left before the college entrance examination. However, Yu Xing, who had just stepped into the base, felt that what his daughter had said today had shattered his understanding. Regarding the fact that my own father entrusted his dream to his granddaughter, but my son still doesn't know about it. My biological father even gave his granddaughter a 2-story room, but he didn't prepare it for him. He furrowed his brows and looked at this place full of technology. This place emphasizes gentle yellow light, but here the head is cold and cold. Not only is there nothing, but the only decoration is with gears. Lack of human touch. It's safe, Miaomiao. Yesterday you didn't answer your mother's phone, and her mother was scared to death. She thought you were going to report something to the police. Liang Hui earnestly picked up Miaomiao's hand and pulled her onto the bench. Besides giving you such a big house, did your grandfather tell you anything else? My grandfather hopes that I can become a dragon and phoenix among people, establish a base in the end of the world, become the leader of the base, protect you, and do my best to protect others. Although she doesn't want to meddle in her own affairs, the system she carries cannot make her mind her own business. How do you protect us? Liang Hui touched her daughter's head. Do you need mom to do something for you? I want a lot of seeds, animal cubs, and saplings, she said as she looked at her father Yuxing who was lost in thought. Dad, help me collect more things. Anything will do, and also dress up our post-apocalyptic home. Isn't your home great now? You're building a base underground and can't see the sun once in 800 years. Miaomiao just shook his head and said, after the end of the world, there are basically no normal weather anymore. Moreover, in the apocalypse, the most dangerous ones are residential buildings, not only thieves, but also zombies and mutated beasts raids. But the most terrifying thing is the sudden cooling and warming of the weather, and this underground base has a certain temperature control effect. Dad, those apocalyptic novels say that a heart of defense is indispensable. In the apocalyptic world, people are the most dangerous, and you should not randomly send out good person cards. The boy Yuziheo pulled a chair from the side and opened his mouth, owing. Go ahead, your old man has gone through more tricks than the muddy water you've dripped through. Don't be scared and wet your pants when the time comes. No, 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 I'm the number one in our school who kills the most zombies. Don't underestimate me. But you have to figure it out, next time you only have one life. Miaomiao just dismantled the cardboard box and took out some things to fill this new home. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Crazy Stockpiling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Crazy stockpiling. At night, she entered the gourd space again. Because of her previous simple treatment of the wolf's wound, it was now nestled somewhere in the space, sleeping lightly. The overall physical condition of the wolf is much better than at first sight. And the big tiger, after waking up, stared around with its wise big eyes and kept circling around boxes of supplies. Seeing Miaomiao, its fur suddenly exploded, as if it had seen someone who killed his father. Subconsciously, it touched the wound on its head with its claws, then bent down again, pouted its butt, and rushed towards the other person. Dong! The woman in front of the meeting lightly struck the forest beast on its head with the handle of a samurai sword, and it fainted again on the ground. Unfortunately, this body is still as dirty as before. I don't want to masturbate at all. It's ridiculous that in front of the tall and powerful female golden gradient, the male golden gradient is nothing. And this scene happened to be seen by the big-tailed wolf not far away. It immediately got up, grabbed its tail, leaned in front of Miaomiao, and bent down. Miaomiao's perspective turned and he looked at the exceptionally obedient black wolf on the ground. The originally smooth and shiny black fur was wrapped in several layers of white bandages, and when touched, the injured area should not be bleeding or scabbing. She bent down and crouched down to touch its head. In an instant, Yichuanzi flashed into her arms and shouted like a trumpet, because the host saved 7 lives before, reward the host with an initial capital of 700 million. At the same time, the infrastructure system will reward you with 26 small cars. Please pay attention and check. Almost in an instant, white characters slowly appeared before her eyes. Congratulations to the host. Shidi's last day armored base vehicle X5, small sedan X3, always powered electric donkey X1, C.type RV X3, Vanguard X3, off-road vehicle X5, A.type RV X1, and large truck X2. Wait, 26 small cars, why did a little electric donkey get mixed in? Suddenly, her tendons twitched. Because the host only collects supplies worth over 50,000 yuan, the little electric donkey is considered a system-friendly gift to the host. Yu Chuanzi in her arms almost instantly answered Miaomiao's question. The two small black bead-like eyes were wide open. It gently pulled up Miaomiao's little hand and inserted a black card into her palm. With a hint of flattery, it said, "Host, Tongzi knows that your mood at this moment must be very unattractive. I have specially offered you 800 yuan. I hope the host will calm down. You're so kind to me, there won't be any deceit," she said, not too fast as she put the card into her pocket. Yu Chuanzi only saw a glimpse of it. Don't say, with this money, she doesn't have to worry about insufficient funds. The extravagance of this system once made her feel like the initial funds for managing games. No, it's just for our common and beautiful future. The future of the apocalypse will only remain cruel. She grabbed the jade ball standing on her shoulder and let its slender legs sway in the wind. The next morning. The rain outside is still falling, and there are even getting worse and worse. The sun is covered by layers of dark clouds, and the whole day is dull and the air is very humid. The weather forecast on the phone says it will rain and clear up tomorrow, but only Miaomiao knows that it will rain for a full half-month. But it's also good and convenient for her to collect materials. First, she rented a large warehouse, and then came to the largest wholesale market in Z province. Because of the rainstorm, many businesses were busy in their stores early. If the moisture-proof work was not in place, many goods that should not be preserved for a long time would become moldy and bacteria. I don't know when it will clear up this day, so be more cautious in order to minimize losses. Miaomiao looked around and didn't know which store to go to first. She had already tested it yesterday, and the space has insulation and preservation functions, so she can rest assured to search for supplies. The wholesale market has a wide variety of items, and many bosses like to neatly arrange them at the entrance. The red and green stacks look full of vitality. Miaomiao walked in without hesitation and handed the grocery store owner a bill to calculate the money. He then walked into another rice shop and ordered 1,000 kilograms of rice. But to be honest, what she is saying now is still a conservative number. If we calculate 1,000 pounds according to the algorithm of 5 yuan per kilogram, it won't be much, and it's only enough for one person to eat 5,000 meals. The owner of the rice shop was dumbfounded when he heard the little girl open her mouth and demanded that 1,000 pounds. I have some stock here, are you sure you want so much at once? I don't just need rice, flour, black rice, corn flour, everything. Just send the goods directly here. You calculate the money first, and I'll come over to settle the bill right away. Then I'll adjust the goods for you. She hurriedly left, and the rice shop owner watched with his own eyes as they hurriedly entered the seed shop before starting to settle the accounts. He occasionally looked up, afraid that this person would not admit it. This girl is really a weirdo, even those who catch a plane are not in such a hurry. Entering the seed shop, she first said that she wanted to package all the dishes in the shop. The future king of farmers. The person looking at the shop was a young man who was already yawning on his chair. When he heard that this person was so arrogant, he wanted everything when he entered the door, and even Drowsy was scared away. Although most of the seeds we have here are only a few cents or more, we don't want you to buy them all at once. Then I can buy less. Do you have the manufacturer's phone number? It's a bit urgent. Yes. This morning, Miaomiao received almost all the goods from this wholesale market, which can be said to have everything. For staple foods such as rice, corn flour, and flour, she first entered several rice stores, packed hundreds of bags of 50 jin and 20 jin bagged rice, and mixed 200 tons of goods. She didn't give up until she almost ran out of stock on all kinds of dishes. She didn't leave behind things like iodized salt, white sugar, brown sugar, and soy sauce. She bought them in boxes and boxes, and in the apocalypse, seasoning still had a place, especially salt. If you don't eat salt for 2 days a day, you may develop salt deficiency syndrome, feeling weak and lacking in energy. In this cannibalistic apocalypse, it is very scary. Then there were hundreds of daily life masks, saws, machetes, axes, hoes, and electric fans, all of which were used as a base to buy everything in the store. And for things like raincoats and umbrellas, she doesn't even take them with her. Buying rain gear during the rainy season is like looking for shit, isn't it? With the vibration of his phone, Miaomiao answered the call. The sound coming from inside is from Liang Hui. I have bought the vegetables and they are all fresh, but many of them have been soaked in rainwater and won't be stored for long. Will they all be transported to the warehouse for you? Well, I have a way to save them. It seems that her mother's collection went smoothly. But just thinking about it, when the rainy season first arrives, farmers must still have unsold vegetables in their hands. During the rainy season, as it is the off-season, there will definitely be a batch of goods thrown into the hands, and buying at this time may even be cheaper than usual. Afterwards, she went to the factory to place orders, such as winter down jackets, military green cotton jackets, cotton pants, sweaters, as well as various jackets, summer short sleeves, outerwear, underwear. She ordered hundreds of sets for different styles and models. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. 5. No worries at a young age. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. 5. No worries at a young age. Of course, she also ordered hundreds of pieces of cloth from several fabric factories. Waterproof, wear-resistant, and warm fabrics are her favorite, with different colors and patterns to choose from. She is talkative and doesn't negotiate much, but there is only one mandatory requirement. She must receive the goods within half a month. The boss didn't refuse. Many of the fabrics she chose were not very popular or even somewhat unpopular. The goods were stuck in the warehouse and couldn't be sold. Someone wanted them, and they were willing to sell her face. She prepared these fabrics mainly for unexpected needs, which will always be needed in the apocalypse. Of course, she didn't forget to stock up on 1,000 liters of edible oil in the grain and oil market. Instant noodles are very popular in the end of the world, such as braised in soy sauce, seafood, pickled Chinese cabbage, chicken with mushrooms, rotten peppers, and beef in golden soup. She has bought dozens of boxes of various flavors in bags. To round it up, we calculate it as 55 boxes, with 30 boxes for each type and 20 flavors, which is only 30,000 yuan. The more she buys this thing, the more cost-effective it becomes. She earns even a few thousand boxes. After the apocalypse, these things cannot be bought with money or exchanged with crystal cores. In the end of the world, who wouldn't crave that mouthful of instant noodles from the wealthy district? A few years before the end of the world, her home was bombed, and the whole family was confined to a slum adjacent to a wealthy area. The line of sight divided the fate of many people. Every night she nests in that corner, smelling the aroma of instant noodles and falling asleep. At the end of the day, 200,000 had already flown away from her pocket. Miaomiao's family is a 2-story self-built house with a small courtyard, a field of mouth, and some vegetables. If there were no apocalypse, it would be comfortable to take a chair on a sunny day and lie in the yard basking in the sun. After the end of the world, even if there is a wall, this place is easy for thieves to enter. On this rainy day, rainwater accumulates here and easily spills into the house. In my previous life, this rainwater had already flooded the house, but now the courtyard is filled with large white buckets. However, this big bucket was the idea of Yuziheo. He stood with his umbrella in the rain, watching which bucket was filled with water and covering it. He had already covered the big pole in the corner with a wooden lid. When the big buckets in the yard are all full, I'm calling on her sister to collect these buckets all at once. After repeating this several times, he moved inside and connected the faucet containing the water purifier to the water pipe, filling the light blue plastic bucket with water. He thought that the water in the white bucket would be used as domestic water, and after the apocalypse, it could be used for washing vegetables, bathing, flushing toilets, and so on. The water in the blue bucket could be consumed directly. At the same time, he was not idle, scrolling through apocalyptic novels, only reading the plot of the protagonists collecting materials. His mother at the school had already asked for leave for him, so that he is now the envy of all junior high school students in his class. And Miaomiao reconciled accounts with her mother in the room. Your uncle and his team are on their way here, and they're almost there, but unfortunately we can't bring those chicks with us. It's okay, let's talk when we get here. Miaomiao's uncle, a family of 4, lives in Ji province and drives for a day and a night. Although the two families only see each other once a year or two, their phone connections are not broken and they usually send things. In Miaomiao's impression, her cousin Liang Kuo would stick behind her and keep following her. She was a well-behaved person. My cousin Liang Yunwen has a cute name, but he is a real kid. He has just started elementary school and is a bit rebellious, but he can play with you Zihao. It's not raining heavily yet, so I can still drive. If the rain gets heavier, the car won't be able to drive. To survive in the apocalypse, the most important thing is to have more people around you who know the root and bottom of things. After all, no one can guess the people outside. Your father has already bought the generator and power generation equipment. We all thought that such a large place would require a lot of diesel generators, but we never thought that generating electricity there would only require feces. Although this may sound absurd, it is reality. We still need to gather more medicine and antibiotics, mainly for external use such as bandages, and internal use mainly for anti-inflammatory purposes. Why is the mortality rate high in the post-apocalyptic era? Zombie infection is a part of it, and without timely treatment after injury, wound infection, ulceration, and death are even more common. 50 chicks from chickens and ducks, 10 rabbits, and 2 calves from cows were bought each. Don't be fooled by their small size now, they eat more in large numbers. Liang Hui crossed out the words with a pen. Your uncle will take care of them, and he can come and raise them when the time comes. Miaomiao pondered, this base has a constant temperature function, so its breathability will definitely not be good. When raising chickens and ducks, the smell will definitely not be wonderful. Moreover, these chickens and ducks would like such a crowded place with no land. Can they survive? She closed her eyes as if lost in thought, but her thoughts had already flown into the gourd space. A corner of the jade gourd was stuffed with a mountain like 50,000 yuan worth of supplies by her. Yuchuanzi seemed to be holding a basket to help her sort, while 5 wolf cubs with black fur were actively picking up things on the mountain and placing them in the corresponding place. The male wolf lay on the side, watching them. And most of the jade gourd is still empty, even covered in a layer of fog. I remember at first, when she woke up and observed the surroundings, there was not even this layer of fog. But when did the tiger disappear? Find it for me. Make sure to uncover the thief who stole my entire warehouse supplies. In the villa, a middle-aged man was scolding his subordinates. The many broken glass fragments on the ground are enough to prove his anger at this moment. How exactly do you do things? I don't even know when the surveillance was smeared with black cloth. Cha, you must conduct a thorough investigation on me. Although this batch of supplies only accounts for a small amount, this thief is likely to take a second action and issue a high reward order. Please make sure to catch him for me. I've been on high alert lately, and I won't allow you to make any more mistakes. Yes. The man in black nodded and gently exited the room, sweating profusely in his heart. If it weren't for the money here, he would have left early. This place is really untouchable. Miaomiao had planned to head straight into the misty area after entering the space, but Yuchuanzi and 6 wolves stopped her from moving forward. The smaller wolf cubs were even howling, but due to the low volume, it was more like sobbing. At this moment, the wolf let out a few moans in its low voice, and Yuchuanzi beside him seized the opportunity to speak. De He said he wants to take you to a place where there are good things, right where you first met. I'll have to wait until I finish exploring the area behind the fog. She walked up to the white mist and patted it with her hand, successfully removing it, revealing the yellow and green colors inside. But the scene inside caught her eye. A large green lawn surrounds a small spring, and next to the spring lies a tiger sleeping with squinting eyes. The coverage area of the lawn is a full 100 square meters, suitable for raising those young children in free range. She pulled up a piece of green grass, and the bald area quickly grew new leaves. As soon as she fell asleep, someone gave her a pillow. At a young age, she no longer has any worries. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 6. Initial Adventures. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Initial Adventures. The group of little wolf cubs were the first to succumb to temptation. They rushed towards the spring, and the sleeping tiger noticed something was wrong, but it was already late. It gritted its teeth and growled at the group of wolf cubs, but saw Miaomiao pulling out the samurai sword. But he suddenly pretended to be quiet and cute, squatting on the grass, occasionally wagging his tail. It seems that there is no need for treatment at the moment. She withdrew her knife, picked up the spring water in her hand, and looked at Yuchuanzi. Let me introduce it. Yuchuanzi knew that her opportunity had come, coughed a few times, straightened her non-existent collar, and said, the legendary Lingquan water will not be used up. Drinking it for the first time will have the effect of washing marrow. It will become more useful as you level up, and now it only has the effect of relieving fatigue. Without any hesitation, Miaomiao drank it, but after waiting for a long time, nothing happened. Are you sure that drinking it for the first time will have a marrow-washing effect, not a brainwashing effect? Perhaps the host's physical fitness has been washed, so this situation would not have occurred. The huge fist pressed against its forehead like the wind, and Yuchuanzi was killed on the spot and fell to the ground. All the creatures present only dared to stare and watch. Even the speed and sound of those wolf cubs drinking water slowed down and became lighter. It's best that way. She withdrew her fist. Although she withdrew her strength, she could still feel the power of that punch. When Miaomiao stepped into this green-covered forest again, the rain grew heavier and the muddy ground was difficult to walk through. She was wearing a raincoat, but the rain mercilessly washed her face several times. The black wolf walked in front, feeling very uncomfortable, occasionally sniffing at the roots of trees, as if the smell had been diluted by the rain. Suddenly, it ran forward suddenly, and Miaomiao could only appoint someone to protect his head and follow it in the rain. Turning east and west, the wolf's footsteps stopped under a pine tree, its fur exploding all over, and its wolf eyes stared fixedly ahead. Miaomiao looked at the area where the wolf was looking, and the green vegetation area ahead was covered with a layer of green net. In front of the green net, there were several layers of wood. Thinking that this was what the black wolf had said, she put it back into space, ran to the front of the wood in a few strokes, relaxed her legs, and picked up the wood with one hand, placing it aside. I saw that the pit below the wood was filled with water. Collecting this water into the space revealed a rusty iron wall inside, and the door was firmly locked with an iron lock. With a gentle swipe of her knife, the iron lock opened, and without any sound or movement inside, she boldly opened the door. Before she could see clearly what was behind Truman, in the darkness, an excessively cold and fair hand grabbed her neck like lightning and collided with the wall. The force almost made her gasp for breath. At that moment, many images popped out of her mind. But she didn't hesitate, because hesitation would lead to defeat. With her right hand, she cut off this arm with a knife, and with her left hand, she fiercely broke open the broken hand and threw it to the ground, while also tapping open the armor scales. Accompanied by the other party's roar, Miaomiao could be certain that there was at least one second-level strength and speed-type zombie inside. She sneaked into the darkness and briefly observed the surroundings through the night vision goggles that came with her armor. I saw that this pit was filled with guns and bullets. Not only were there hanging on the wall, but there were also hand grenades and smoke bombs stored on the table. And there was still thick green and red blood from zombies on the ground. Such a bold arrangement of these firearms, with a large amount of gunpowder and a second-level power and speed-type zombie, is definitely the work of her old boss. This place is spacious and even has several iron gates, and I don't know what will appear behind those gates. And the second-level zombie had long disappeared, and I didn't know where to hide in order to give her a fatal blow. To prevent a fight and the detonation of these grenades, she first put all the items on the table hanging on the wall into the space. Call out. Almost in the next second, a heavy breathing sound came from her right ear. She fiercely hit the monster's head with her right hand, then stabbed it in the neck with a knife. But at the moment it was about to touch, the monster disappeared and flashed in front of Miaomiao. Both hands tightly grasped Miaomiao's neck again. Truly slow, the zombie said hoarsely, his stiff face pouring with indifference and ridicule. But what shocked Miaomiao was not only his humanity, but also his hands. 2 hands. This zombie has the same regenerative function as her. Her pupils are wide open, as if she didn't expect the success of the regeneration experiment to be so fast. At the same time, due to this silver armor, the strength of the zombie was broken down by the armor, and she felt a bit uncomfortable with her neck being bound. That's all, even though the zombie's hands were constantly tightening. Seeing the zombie in front of her with dark veins crawling all over her eyes, a pale face, and body with large and small notches, tooth marks, and pinholes, she seemed to have seen herself from a previous life. Although she was far from being so miserable, at this moment, Miaomiao's humanity seemed to have been temporarily extinguished. Since they are both experimental subjects and met in this place, meeting on a narrow path is the victory of the brave. She opened the shackles of her hands with one hand, removed her armor, and as an insulator for the zombie virus, she didn't need to fear zombies at all, nor did she need to fear this zombie with strength far above level 2. She was summoning a long sword, 2 of which shimmered with a faint red light in the darkness. Since there was no night vision mirror, this faint light was her second pair of eyes in the darkness. With a twist of the blade, she charged forward, breaking through the lock of the iron door in the corner, kicking it open, and releasing a room full of zombies. Crazy. Son. The first zombie grabbed her with claws in both hands, and Miaomiao just crossed his hands with a knife to block the monster's attack. With an unstoppable force, she swung her sword and soared towards him, her movements becoming faster and faster, and her moves becoming even more fierce. She swung her sword on his face and cut off a piece of his flesh, then appeared behind him and swung her sword to cut off one of his legs in the next second. That zombie is like a zombie dog, attacked but unable to find the other person in the darkness by scent. Although it is the most powerful place for him, it is constantly retreating after being killed. Unlike the zombie behind him, whose neck was cut off with a knife, he was slowly erased like being tortured. Miaomiao kept waving his knife, but the faint red light grew brighter and brighter. Accompanied by her flowing movements, the light was more like a lamp at night, illuminating the zombie face she was about to kill. She had no way out, let alone take a step back. Her lightning-fast attack was her defense, and as long as she was fast enough, she could give them a fatal blow before the zombies could react. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 7. Picking up wolves and sending tigers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Picking up wolves and sending tigers, failed product. She pulled out the long knife that had pierced the zombie's brainstem, letting green and red blood splash on her face. She slaughtered the last zombie in the most open place, and her body was covered in countless scars. Although it had scabbed, she still felt a bit powerless now. This is her first high-intensity recovery exercise since her rebirth, and also her first time killing a corpse. But this is by no means her last time, there will be countless more in the future. She entered those rooms one by one, took away all the firearms displayed inside, leaving no one behind, while the zombies on the ground that could still flutter were repaired one by one. Finally, he used a grenade to destroy this place and left. Asterisk in the space, Miaomiao took out a floor mirror and carefully observed himself in the mirror. The slightly tender little face was stripped of its beauty by a few terrifying scars, and the anger in her eyes was a bit heavy. Her body was also covered in color, and there was not a good piece of flesh on her exposed skin. However, these injuries quickly disappeared, leaving only a blue-black palm print on her neck. She changed herself into clothes that didn't look like a refugee, washed her body with spiritual spring water, and then returned home. Not to mention, the effect of this spiritual spring water is indeed good. Just as I entered the mouth, it swept through most of the pain and loss of strength. "Cousin, you're back." Just as she entered the door, a girl threw herself into her arms and knocked off her umbrella. The two of them were drenched in the heavy rain together. She held back for a while before taking a picture of her cousin in her arms. "My cousin is very cute. She has crescent-shaped eyes when she smiles, but she is also very tall. They are only a few years apart, and she is almost as tall as her cousin Miaomiao, who is 1.67 meters tall. She was wearing a white casual outfit today, which gave Miaomiao an unrealistic illusion." "Cousin, are you injured?" Feeling that her cousin had been silent and her body was particularly stiff, she looked up in surprise. I saw her cousin, who had not seen her for a long time, covering her head with one hand to shield her from the rain, and there were obvious blue and black spots on her neck that were pinched. Damn it, who dares to bully her cousin? "Cousin, I'm injured." She was startled and broke free from her arms, running into her house like an agile rabbit, with a sound that seemed to be inaudible to neighbors from all over the country. "Auntie, my cousin got beaten up. Who can bully my sister?" Yuziheo was the first to rush out the door, not even using an umbrella. When he saw the sister who had just picked up an umbrella in the yard, he crawled into her umbrella. Miaomiao just coldly pressed down on her brother's head, and he saw his eyes staring like copper bells, screaming, "I'm so good, someone really wants to strangle my sister." When Miaomiao entered the room, 6 people surrounded her and asked her to explain what the injury on her neck was. She didn't speak, just took out a shiny black Alaska. Brother Yuziheo slammed the door shut and kept saying, "Sister, whose arsenal did you smash? Let me tell you, your neck injury is quite mild." Everyone nodded without hesitation. Going down to the second underground floor, Miaomiao took his cousin Liang Kuer's tea and slowly spoke up, "I smashed the arsenal of zombies." As for why she had to expose this scar, she was still afraid that a group of adults would not believe in the apocalypse and not value it. She reduced what happened in the small arsenal and told them. "Miaomiao, how could uncle not believe it? If he didn't believe it, I wouldn't have brought your aunt and them all the way." Uncle Liang Yong finished his cup of tea in one gulp. Yu Xing nodded and said, "This large underground building is the best proof." Aunt Huang Yenuet caught the key words and asked, "Wasn't the zombie only appearing on June 7th, Miaomiao, how did you encounter it there?" The comprehensive outbreak of the virus occurred on the 7th, and it is estimated that zombies appeared long ago. The reports were suppressed. Miaomiao smiled, "This time we discovered an arsenal, we have to mention the story of me saving 6 wolves in the forest." With a wave of her hand, she saw 2 large and 5 furry little beasts on the wood left by Miaomiao's father's decoration. "Oh, brain axe." Cousin Liang Yunwen covered his mouth in disbelief. "Sister, didn't you say it was a 6-headed wolf? Why is there still a tiger?" Yuziheo, like the few normal people present, trembled. "What's wrong with your sister picking up 6 wolves and giving away a tiger?" Liang Hui and Miaomiao looked at each other, took the baseball bat handed over by their daughter, and slowly walked towards the restless tiger, scratching its paws and preparing to pounce. The big wolf found itself in a strange place and just patrolled the surroundings. The 5 wolf cubs were quite excited, running and running around, but they sneezed one after another due to the flying sawdust. Yu Zihao screamed loudly because he was hit by the fur of a flying wolf cub on his leg. Yu Xing said in a low voice, just like a woman. Before long, he changed his voice and said, even a woman is not as good. And the powerful mother of Yu, Liang Hui, looked at the yellow-haired tiger that was rushing towards her, calling it merciless, while a stick made it howl incessantly on the spot. Yu's mother's technique is very cruel. With a single blow, Huzi didn't faint, but there was a visibly swollen lump. It covered its head in pain. Originally, there were still 2 bags on its head that hadn't been cleared, but now it's over, there's another one. The tiger, who originally wanted to regain its face, is now completely immersed in pain. Stupid tiger. The black wolf on the side glanced at it and found a comfortable place to lie down. Miaomiao, are you rescuing a male wolf? How do male wolves feed? Yu Miaomiao's uncle grabbed a wolf cub that had passed by it. Can you still be so strong without milk to drink? The little wolf flipped its belly, feeling extremely unsafe, but because it had no claws, it could only whimper like a dog and pat its hands with a meat pad. We have milk powder. We can't say it's Yuchuanzi who is both a father and a mother feeding milk powder. When this wolf cub grows up, he will be very loyal and will be a great help to us. Yu Miaomiao sat on the sofa quietly watching the tiger howl. The strength of their family was surprisingly strong, which is why she was so confident that her mother was foolish. Moreover, the tiger's brain was probably fooled by her and dared to provoke its owner in other people's territory. Afterwards, Yu Miaomiao went alone to the first floor and re-divided the area. On the basis of 300 square meters in the middle of their home, an additional 100 square meters were added to create a 6-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 1 kitchen, 2 guest rooms, and a conference room. The 3 bedrooms added later were also fully occupied due to the arrival of my uncle and others. The light source here doesn't need Yu Miaomiao to worry, it is generated by feces. The kitchen here cannot easily use natural gas, so it is necessary to prepare some gas tanks or directly set up an earthen stove. Miaomiao's grandmother's house is like this. At most, due to poor exhaust, the kitchen is prone to emitting a lot of smoke. As for the issue of water use in the base. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. 8. Monster Power Buff. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Monster Power Buff. As for the use of water in the base, it is a big problem. In the apocalypse, water is a rare thing. Yu Miaomiao couldn't use an excavator to dig an underground river several hundred meters underground to solve the problem of water supply for the people at the base. After all, she is a family and she will not be stingy. She will use the Lingquan water whenever she needs it. It's just about taking a shower, washing your face, and going to the bathroom, or we need to get more clean rainwater now. As for others, whether they can drink enough water or not depends on their abilities. In the absence of extreme wealth, she could not have opened a warehouse to help the world like an ancient employee. Her grandfather assigned her the task of taking care of her family in the apocalypse, and of course she could take care of it. She has also considered the series of tasks that will be released to her after the end of the world for the bound infrastructure system. It is nothing more than hoping that the number of people in the base will increase, and that a large base can be well managed. But let's talk about the rest later. She needs to take care of the present and manage this small family first, so that she can have the energy to manage everyone then. And when she was renovating this base, she found that the things inside the renovated area can also be moved in their original state without disappearing. This is good news, it can save a lot of resources. After introducing the silly tigers to her family, she took them back into space with the animal cubs and set off again. She instructed Yuchuanzi in the space to let these carnivorous animals take care of the chickens and ducks. Although this should have been the least likely thing to happen, everything has become possible here in Miaomiao. After taking out all the goods from the warehouse, she ordered the next batch of goods. After returning home, install 2 large ice makers and let them work day and night to make ice. If it weren't for being afraid of tripping, she would even want to buy 10 to work from home. The two younger brothers were both receiving water and covering the lid, as well as collecting ice cubes, and their strength was forced to increase significantly. Afterwards, she drove to the 4S dealership and had them renovate her 4 RVs in half a month. They reinforced the 5 off-road vehicles according to her ideas. Several designers felt that she was wasting a lot of money and made the cars look ugly, but it was the wealthy man who said whatever he said. After entering several greenhouses, I bought the vegetables that farmers had piled up at home. If she goes later, there will be more vegetables rotting. After finishing these tasks, the rain hasn't stopped yet. This heavy rain has been going on for a week. It flooded the subway station, causing the city's drainage system to operate at high loads every day. Many construction sites have long been shut down, and the first floor of many buildings has been flooded. But Miaomiao changed his direction of purchasing. Daily necessities. She spent over 100 yuan just on car decoration, not to mention buying a lot of decoration materials out of her own pocket, which has already cost her nearly half of the money. Shampoo, shower gel, toothbrush and toothpaste, face towels, anti-sleepwear, soap, laundry detergent, she takes everything she has in stock. The manager of several large supermarkets followed behind her and kept records. That scene, don't mention it, Miaomiao can boast for a lifetime. If it's her purchasing offline, then her cousin, aunt, and biological mother are shopping online, filling in the warehouse address, and each purchasing software ER's bill of lading is dozens of boxes plus dozens of boxes. Not to mention that women have really strong shopping abilities. Miaomiao watched the deduction on her phone pop up and silently pressed the mute button. Daily necessities cost her 1 million. She also didn't forget to buy those semi-finished ingredients, just ordered 200 boxes of hot pot seasoning. Plus, purchasing life-saving items such as bandages, alcohol, first aid kits, and emergency blankets would cost another 1 million yuan. In the last 2 million, she focused her energy on weapons. Powerful weapons can greatly improve survival rates. She specifically found someone to customize daggers and knives, and even bought dozens of sharp kitchen knives. At the same time, taking advantage of the off-season, I visited the antique market and searched for several usable swords in the weapons store, but their weight was not within the control of ordinary people. It's all trash. In the villa, the man was smoking non-stop. He didn't expect that all the zombies he kept in the arsenal were destroyed. He even thought about the things he did in the Officialdom, even though they were all done very discreetly and the surface work was also well done. No one should know about his secret inventory. This batch of small zombie legions was obtained by his coincidence as experimental products. Although they were all failed products, they were also among the best among them. This zombie virus was discovered several years ago, but the authorities quickly suppressed the news. If it weren't for someone else's extensive connections, it would probably still be in the dark. And this virus is not artificially created, but suddenly emerges that no one can catch or solve. After several studies and explorations, those academicians only roughly estimated the time of the comprehensive outbreak of the virus. The rain outside has been raining for a week, at the latest by the end of June, at the earliest in June, the end of the world will come. After the end of the world, banknotes become waste paper, and the once humble lower class may turn over into the upper class who can easily decide the life and death of 10,000 people in the next second. As long as you are tough enough, you are enough to knock down the original hierarchy and step into the clouds. At that time, the one with the most resources, weapons, and assets will become the king in the apocalypse, possessing power and glory. He set his gaze on the map of the coffee table. Several maps have been circled above, and the place with a 5-pointed star in the center is his future base. There, he will become the king of the base, the savior, and lead the people of the base to the summit. But before that, he must catch the thief. Keep investigating. If it weren't for that place where he was afraid others would know and there was no surveillance, otherwise this thief wouldn't have been able to escape. Arrange for Lao Li to bring those goods over when the rain stops. Remember to keep an eye on those goods. If they run out, don't even think about them. Asterisk, how many tens of thousands? How many tens of thousands did we spend? In the room, Yu's mother Liang Hui looked incredulous, her eyes fixed on Yu Miaomiao's phone. Your mother has never seen so much money in most of my life. Mom, at most half a month, you'll be able to live a life where even using money to use the restroom feels useless. Although what Yu Miaomiao said may not be elegant, it is indeed true. Later, she equipped each member of her family with a dagger, which was not cheap and weighed heavily. Her cousin did not have any monster buff or physical labor, so it would take some time and effort to easily pick up the dagger. When going out, you must bring it with you, and you must not forget it. If you forget it, you must never go out and wander around. Afterwards, even home is not considered the safest, and the base downstairs is the one. In the following days, besides going to the warehouse to collect goods and organize inventory, Yu Miaomiao taught his family some tricks to save their lives. I don't know if a group of people didn't want to die or because they were ruthless. During the practice, they even broke 1 or 2 sandbags. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. 9. The end of the world is coming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The end of the world is coming. That day, Yu Miaomiao finally remembered the over 50 million yuan worth of supplies in the corner, ranging from snacks and bread to thick coats like long down jackets. She even found many emergency supplies for the wilderness inside. Sewing bags, compasses, tool knives, matches, candles. It has to be said that the old owner is really wealthy, and these down jackets are all top-tier brands, with no duplicates, only large, medium, and small sizes. After visual inspection, there are at least 500 down jackets. At that time, she would just dance in front of him in the down jacket stocked by her old employer, probably not realizing that the clothes on her body were bought with his hard-earned money. She rubbed her bruised and slightly swollen neck. When she was choked by the mutated zombie on her neck that day, it felt like fate was holding her throat, and that sense of powerlessness made her emerge as the first small target of the apocalypse. This small goal sounds a bit unrealistic, and even a bit beyond measure. She wants to take down her old boss and take away his base. Although he has a special ability group, a scientific research team, and some bullshit mercenaries under his command. But this person likes it the most, but it's just squeezing his subordinates. At first, saying things that sound so nice is just farting, and it's only a matter of time before his subordinates turn against him. She only needs to secretly wait for the opportunity and die in one blow. She must form her own team in this life. Weak strength can gradually improve, but it cannot be like in the previous life, where the team's heart is scattered like sand. Asterisk, according to the Meteorological Observatory, heavy rain is falling all over the country, and even the desert is experiencing a once-in-a-century rainstorm. It is expected that the heavy rain will continue for 3 days in the future. Please pay attention to your safety and stay away from home in rainy days. On TV, the host is broadcasting the future weather, and in the bottom left corner is a stubborn and rooted journalist in the rain. Due to this heavy rain, schools in Z province have postponed their school hours. Even some areas have experienced floods, which have engulfed other people's homes and consumed many lives. Even though some residents formed their own rescue teams, their ships disbanded before they officially set sail due to heavy rain. The Yu Miaomiao family, on the other hand, sat happily on a round table, with a custom-made large hotpot plate in the center and a small gas barrel for heating. There is a circle of turntables outside, on which there are plenty of small dishes. Pig blood, baby bok choy, and fat beef were all cooked one by one. The red and white mandarin duck soup had a fragrant aroma, and the heat surrounded the noses of these people. Yu Miaomiao had a great meal. This is the best meal she has had since her rebirth. It was also the best meal she had experienced in the end of 10 years. Hot dishes, fragrant rice, and family around. How many times these materials appeared in her dreams, and when everything happened again, she felt unreal. Cousin, don't cry. Liang Kuo sat across from Miaomiao and saw her blinking abnormally. A few tears streaked her face, and she quickly turned the tissue on the turntable to her face. She hurriedly walked over to her side and wiped away her tears. Cousin, everyone is here, don't put too much pressure on yourself. During this time, she saw her cousin's efforts and taught them self-defense techniques during the day. She locked the door at night and didn't turn off the lights until late to sleep. Although she didn't know what her cousin was doing, she was also aware of the weight of her burden. I'm just too happy to have such a good meal. Sitting beside him, Father Yu wanted to stand up and say, the end of the world is not a big deal. Dad will plant vegetables for you so that you can eat fresh vegetables. But when he thought of his daughter saying that water sources are precious, polluted water is everywhere, and there is no normal weather in the apocalypse, he suddenly felt that this apocalypse was even more terrifying than the famine at that time. This statement is stuck in my throat, I can't even say it. 3 days later, the day gradually turned from cloudy to sunny, but the temperature rose in a straight upward arc. There are still 15 days left until the end of the world, and the temperature has reached 35 degrees. Urban residents have clearly felt the difference between the recent abnormal temperature and the rainstorm temperature in the previous few days. It's too stuffy, there's still a scorching sun shining in the sky. Although the water level outside doesn't drop very quickly, looking at the entire Z city, there have been several cases of citizens falling into the water when going out. A large number of office workers and student party members who were finally able to go out due to heavy rain worked in class for 2 days, read for 2 days, and returned home again to start online work in classes. Miaomiao, on the other hand, was thinking that his own circuit might not be able to withstand 24-hour uninterrupted ice production due to the high temperature, so he took 2 large ice-making machines into the space early on. Then he lay in the bedroom, holding half a watermelon with his cousin, enjoying one of the few happy days. The countdown to the end of the world is 13 days. The temperature soared by 40 degrees on that day. Like Z province, many provinces have issued an emergency notice regarding daytime power outages. Many old residential buildings in the city, due to outdated electrical wires and high workload, have experienced power shortages and caused fires. The sound of fire trucks and ambulances can be heard incessantly day and night. The release of this emergency notice greatly reduced the occurrence of fires, but it caused people in the entire city to only get up at night to buy groceries, work and search for food. Recently, the weather has been unpredictable, and everyone in the city is under a lot of pressure. Every household has a difficult time, which has also led to many cases of burglary. There is even a tall and long, the end of the world is coming, post posted online. Netizen A. I was overwhelmed by my life because of the mortgage and car loans. Now it is rainstorm and flood, and the temperature is getting higher and higher. What will happen next? Netizen B. Nowadays, everyone's life is difficult. During the day, there is a power outage and children cry and make noise, making it difficult for them to sleep. At night, they have to get up to work and rush to make plans. I feel like my days are not coming to an end. Netizen C. These days, aunties and grandfathers don't go out anymore. A group of young people go to the supermarket every night when it opens and sweep away empty goods. If they are late, they won't get anything. Netizen D. I heard that the end of the world is coming, but I feel like I can't bear it now. Can I really hold on until the end of the world? Netizen E. The end of the world is coming, that's really good. Everyone can be liberated. Netizen A. I heard that next month will be the end of the world, is this true? Netizen C. Although I don't know if this news is true, collecting more resources and getting through the current situation is the real thing. Netizen D. In such high temperatures, we won't be able to survive until the end of the world next month. Just staying at home, we will all be forced into adulthood. Netizen F. Will zombies appear at the end of the world? Netizen A. If there is a zombie, I will use a needle to touch the blood of the zombie to minimize the pain of infection. Netizen B. Brother, you can get infected. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 10. The Coming of the End of the World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10:10. The Coming of the End of the World. Miaomiao huddled under the blanket, watching this hot post. The diesel engine at home was running, and Miaomiao was greedily sucking on the air conditioning. In her past life, their family had a hard time at this time. They couldn't catch a breath of air during the day and wanted to keep their head in the water to cool down. However, when the faucet turned on, all the water came out was warm and even slightly hot. She also complained in the online post building. But who would have thought that this apocalypse, as the people in this post have heard, would come next month? At first, everyone thought it was just a joke and didn't take it seriously. This post was quickly suppressed and deleted, but quickly caught the attention of idle netizens, pushing this post about the end of the world to a higher level. Asterisk on the 10th day of the countdown to the end of the world, the temperature reached 50 degrees. Even gods cannot survive without turning on the air conditioning during the day, so people's normal electricity usage has been restored. At first, those who were shouting to clean up supplies at night refused to leave the cool bedding at night. Trying to walk to a place where the air conditioning couldn't reach, the heat wave rushing towards us almost carried people out of breath. The air is truly mixed with a sense of suffocation. Many elderly people cannot bear to pass away one after another, and stubbornly curl up in some places greedily sucking on the cold air inside. Miaomiao and his family are even more confined underground, unwilling to step into the natural, melting pot above. The temperature on this ground is as high as 50 degrees, and the temperature underground only reaches 30 degrees. Their family is both lucky and happy. On the 8th day of the countdown to the end of the world, the temperature has dropped to 40 degrees. The prices outside are terrifying, even more expensive than a few days ago. All the goods that Miaomiao requested were already in place, so she didn't have to worry about going out and suffering. The family happily decorated their post-apocalyptic home, and it was satisfying to have dinner at the designated time. Because Miaomiao can modify a certain structure in the room, she even watched online videos and became a designer. She thought her cousin liked pink, so she pasted pink wallpaper on her room, and even the floor was filled with girlish pink. When my cousin lived in the countryside, although her room was large, only 3 beds, a wooden cabinet, and a desk occupied most of the space in her room. At that time, Miaomiao could easily see through the room as soon as she entered. Miaomiao made a tatami mat in the corner of her room with many cabinets. A desk was placed in the small window on the right, and several long cabinets were placed in the wall. A small table and sofa were placed in front of the bed, while also making a small blanket. And her own bedroom is even simpler, with a bed spread out in the right corner and a 7-shaped cabinet attached to a table on the left side of the bed. There are 2 cabinets installed across from the bed, one for books and the other for clothes. She carved a 2-layer hole on the wall next to the door to place some handy weapons and various high-capacity bags. The rooms of the elders have their own plans, and she can only work honestly and responsibly as a person who cannot intervene. The thinking of the 2 younger brothers is a bit off. They demand a forest here and a big robot over there. She didn't talk nonsense either. The 2 loud slaps of pia pia landed on their heads, which was quite normal. The windows in each room are facing inward, and she has installed air vents in the corner anyway. The problem is not very big, so she only installs a few windows for external ventilation in the living room and kitchen. Asterisk in the remaining days, the temperature slowly dropped and returned to around 20 degrees Celsius. The weather had been normal for 5 days, and just as everyone was breathing a sigh of relief, the end of the world had quietly descended. On the day when the college entrance examination was supposed to take place, it was accompanied by the white snowflakes. This was supposed to be a day to change the fate of high school seniors, but it has become a day to change the fate of people around the world. After this day, all classes will be broken and reorganized. At 6 o'clock, Chinan No. 1 Middle School. Because it is the best high school in the city, the students who can be admitted are the top students in the middle school entrance examination. They are the most optimistic seeds in the eyes of their families, the children of other families who have been praised since childhood, and hope. Today is the day of the college entrance examination, and many people drive to the examination center early in the morning. Even if they stay in a hotel one night in advance, they have to be in the examination center in advance to avoid their children missing the college entrance examination. Missing this moment that determines fate. But now, before everyone could marvel at the sudden change in weather and snowfall, many vehicles were uncontrollably colliding with each other, burning blazing flames. Although many police officers were maintaining order there, when many eerie actions were taken inside the vehicles, and citizens with blood-stained mouths, no matter how much they warned, they simply twisted their bodies numbly and approached them. Even one had climbed onto the police officer's body, fiercely biting and tearing off a piece of neck flesh, causing blood to burst and splash into the crowd. The parents of the students who came and went were watching the riot and were fleeing everywhere, abandoning their cars and fleeing. The riot quickly erupted in the crowd. And it wasn't long before the police officer who was bitten stood up straight, rolled his eyes, twisted his body, and rushed towards the nearby crowd. The screams, and cries for help were all engulfed by the explosion of vehicles. Schools and hospitals, these two areas with the largest human flow, are critical areas and also human purgatory. "Mom, where are you?" The little girl carried her bag and held a doll in her hand. She looked around in confusion, unable to find her mother. Mom doesn't know where she got swept away by the crowd. Roar. Xiao bao. The woman's clothes in the distance were stained with black ash, and she didn't know where she fell. She tried hard to rush towards her daughter's direction, but could only watch the bloody cloth doll fall to the ground. Asterisk on this side, Miaomiao scanned the surroundings and could vaguely hear screams coming from some houses. She just silently locked the door, dressed in a short down jacket, carrying a backpack, and opened the little electric donkey that will never run out of electricity, and walked out. As before, on the first day of the apocalypse, white snow fell from the sky. Some people later said that nature is snowfall, attempting to cover this land and eliminate the traces of human evil. But Miaomiao felt that this was pure farting, nothing to eliminate the traces of human evil, nonsense, too nonsense. This heavy snowfall contains zombie viruses. Those who are physically strong or lucky may develop abilities within a few days of contact, but those who are physically weak or unlucky are likely to become the first-generation zombie mother. At the same time, after heavy snowfall, animals and plants also undergo mutations, which is why resources are scarce after the end of the world. Miaomiao was fearless about this and even planned to take advantage of the early apocalypse to collect more supplies. End of this chapter.